This is the Grassroots Education and Entertainment Network, your number one source of information, education, and entertainment. For honest, responsible, and dependable information, we stand supreme. To stay focused, inspired, and relaxed, choose green.
Aliwa, Daniel John.
Boye, and welcome again to another week of Ifa Orisa discussions on the Green Network. You say like, share, subscribe. Let's also support our things that will strengthen ourselves as a community. All right. Because I give praise to Lord Maria, the Rishas, and Ifa, and all my spirit friends and spirit guides that has carried me through the journey so far. I think, well, it's a good journey. You know, once we find our balance, we'll always be living a good life in this existence, and we'll be prepared for the greater life that Lord Maria promised to all. All right. Give praise again to my ancestors who had set the field on which I walk and who has carried me through all the life experience. I also give praise to my Ori to keep me steadfast and focus on to what is important and necessary in life, in this life, to be on the good pathway.
Sure.
So, as we continue another week journey in sharing information, having discussions, this evening we hoping to get in touch with Awela Fakayode, that is Adeloni Brave Boy. He is the PRO for the International Council Ifa Religion in Trinidad and Tobago chapter. And it's just to talk a little about the ICR, what it's about, and to encourage people to be part of something that is growing and to help build the community, because we always hear people saying we have nothing organized, we're not together. So this is a step, and we could only be united and together if everybody who's part of the community join hands and be part of the progress as we move forward.
Sure.
We have tended too much like to be followers and not contributors. Ask for change and wait for somebody to make the change rather than contribute to the change. All right. So until we get the link with Baba Aurela, one thing, there's a letter reading that says, how can we move forward in an African cultured restoration plan? And so everything, firstly, they will identify that ancestor worship. We have to remember we are here because of them, and we are just a continuation of them. We are their DNA. And if we go to trace our ancestry all the way back to its original source, we'll all realize that we're all connected to the one divine supreme God that created human. Right? So our beginning can only come from the beginner of all things. Some say, Lord Maria, Allah, Jesus, whatever name. We are also ancestral connections to the supreme being. So it'll give us a little perspective how we see life and our contribution in life. While we look for God, we've neglected the fact that we are the continuation of that God being.
Well, Baba, I want to interject and just emphasize one of the points that you just raised. And that is, it does not matter by what expression people refer to Olodumare or the Most High. The reality is that if he is personified as the supreme deity, we all worship a supreme deity. If he is personified as a human being who made a contribution towards his tradition, his group, and his people, we all know that once we're talking about a people, the issue of ancestry becomes a major part of that form of veneration or worship.
True.
Therefore, every traditional group would venerate those who contributed to the elevation of their group. And such a person, once they have lived as a human being, would have passed on and they would be acknowledged for the contribution they have made to their national group or to their culture and tradition.
Exactly.
We in turn also have that practice, and we refer to it as ancestral veneration. These practices are not exclusive to our people,
Mm.
it's common to many. It even is so far that many of our people venerate the ancestors of others sometimes without a slight idea that this is what they're in fact doing.
Mm.
So it is important for us to attempt to reinstate that aspect of our tradition among all of our people everywhere.
Everywhere. And it don't matter the religion or the practice. Now, in our tradition, it is always encouraged that we establish or make an altar for ancestors. You know, that they kind of always have them pictured into our life. You know, well, I grew up in the early 80s, 90s, where TV was the entertainment and the TV was where you know what happening outside of your space. And you notice most of the time you see Western or European pictures where you're going to some castle or some family place, you know, and they will always have some big pictures on the wall and you can see pictures lining up. It's not a picture of no movie star and picture of no singer, but it's picture of grandfather, great grandfather, great grandmother, and you'll see the whole family lines coming down to who is now there or who will be the most recent, you know. And they recognize the ancestors. They always pay homage to the ancestors in whichever way they see that is comfortable to them. And we may have our cultural way, our African spiritual way, in which we connect with our ancestors. Some may stop at the point of recognizing the Baptist or Baptist spiritual ancestry by they doing the ancestral prayers. Some may reach at the point of doing the Orisha prayers annually to celebrate the ancestors. And some will do it continually every period they have opportunity to venerate and recognize the ancestors. You know, and that is what I part in strengthening ourselves by having that connection to our source in our earthly experience, especially when we recognize our names. Another part, the second one, they identify cultural image. You know, as some say, receive an African name, we wear African attire, we try to become positive role models. And things we should establish, we need to establish like African central base or African libraries, you know, where we could preserve some of the things that we are losing, you know. Otherwise, we wait on an opportunity like what in Trinidad we have Best Village, which used to kind of present things of the past in the community, right? So, you know, cultural image and cultural expression. So we don't just wear our traditional clothes and our beads and things, just, you know, out of that, but it's also recognizing this is our ancestral linkages. Thirdly, we talk about our sexual code. You know, African ideas, values, and moral must be studied, learned, and explained to males and females. Some say the masculines and the feminines. Right? Elders must educate, guide, mentor, and nurture those within their areas of influence so we can help produce healthy, whole people, families, and communities. You know, I think I always say when we look at how our worship structures really used to be, somehow we really eliminated the participation of the younger ones, especially the children, right? And but we expect they are the one that's supposed to preserve the cultures. So this is where I try to encourage people to start to have create new songs or even the songs that we are accustomed singing. You know, we could bring the translations and put a story to the song so the children will appreciate the songs as they are growing older. Fourthly, educational programs. You know, this is a factor I think we need to really and pack upon, both as we, as yourself, who produce a number of programs to educate our people. We need people to know to really realize, hey, we have to participate in these educational programs because it's not just about learning your African cultures and education about the African ancestry, but it also will allow us to understand the whole cosmology of our being and how that relates to our spirituality and our social lives. Fifthly, the economic program. Those who feed us will always rule us. So until we have an economic plan to really help ourselves to come out of dependency on system governance and grants and social benefits that might be out there, we should be able to feed ourselves. Because the day they don't have food on the shelf, we will become total slaves to whoever has some food on a shelf, and what you don't know what they'll ask of us for we to participate in that. So that's why we always pay emphasis on farming, feeding ourselves, rearing of animals, husbandry, learn these African skills because it is nothing really hard to learn. I use that term the other day, agriculture has killed farming because most people think I have to go and be a trained farmer to rear animals, where our grandmothers and grandfathers they did it with great skills. All right. I know Ella when a cattle is getting problem, he knew exactly what to do to take out that young cattle out of the womb of the mother cow. And he didn't go to medical school or veterinary school, but he had that knowledge. So there's a great importance. Because even I as a youth, I grew up mining birds, fishes, ducks, chicken as fun. Today you look for these youths, the only thing they might be mining is a tablet or a phone. you know. So we have to encourage them to have that experience because it could go a long way. All right. In terms of bringing ourselves to have an economic stand. Once you could maintain and feed yourself, there's plenty skill opportunities or entrepreneurial opportunities in our culture. And people really don't pay much attention. The sisters and brothers who making the LKs, the EDs, making the different craft work. It is a great economic value. And where we could even, or say, move into that area in terms of promoting arts and craft in our community. Create our own markets, our own African markets,
Baba,
to really support ourselves.
if I might say this, right?
Uh,
Even if at the moment our community may not be able to be totally self sufficient,
mm,
I think some of the basic things that we use, I think it should be important that these
mhm,
supplies we at least should try to be able to
mm,
manufacture a lot of the things that we use instead of
mhm.
having to go outside
True.
of the community in order to gain these supplies.
Mm.
All our basic supplies, I think practically all of them could be made locally.
Yeah. Right. And it can sustain us economically. Because when tourists come here, yeah, they go away with stuff that would represent Trinidad and Tobago, yes, but which aspect of Trinidad and Tobago do they go back with? Right? We as the African community that a lot of people love to come our feasts, love to come our festivals, love to experience the Orisha manifestations, the drumming, the singing. But when they leave, they only leave with the experience. So we're supposed to now always be able that when they come, there's artifacts, there's craft, there's things. Because this is what Brazil built itself off of. When you look at the wealth that you see in Brazil, African traditional religious practice, they push the craft. The festival now is a major carnival to what carnival is, right? Where are we putting our culture in terms of our economic base? It's not to say we're selling our tradition, but it's creating an economic structure to sustain our tradition that when we go into the cities, the towns, the villages, we could see our temples, and our temples are maintained by the community by whatever economic base we might put.
Well,
Right?
Baba,
Mm.
while we need those things to be a self-sufficient community, I want to make a very, very important point
Ah.
that we must understand. Our artistic influence has been so strong in this country
Mm.
that a lot of the cultural art forms that we experience today, whether it be panorama, carnival, old mass,
Mm.
most of the forms of modern music that came out of Trinidad has been greatly influenced by the Yoruba
Yeah,
tradition.
yeah. Now could give a point, and I'll say it live so wherever part in the world he may hear it, and if they want to sue me, Peter Minshall, he thrived, or he excelled in his whole creativity in art, in creating these masks by attending African, what we just call it banqueting. Some they say the Kabbalah in China Kabbalah, but it's really the African spirituality of that certain order. And he would have initiated, and he would sat and he would connect. I know a lot of the elders, I sat with the elders and them who would have sat with him, and he would have attend their spiritual functions and look at things and hear the stories and talk to the different entities and get his ideas. And then you see come out with these masks, and you wonder where did he get that? You know? Some who had a different opinion say he went and sleep with the devil, because you know they always say we do devil work. But most of his artwork came from that whole concept of African spirituality. Because if you notice, most of his masks use the Mokojombi and all the aspects of different aspects of African spirituality in his mass. Who really would know African culture would see it. You know, a lot of people just say, wow, that is he came out with a great mass. How much about 7 or 8 years he won straight. So sure, there is so much opportunities in our spirituality. We have to appreciate it. We have to see how we could use the economic benefit of it, but without selling the whole essence of our spirituality, but excelling it into where we could have an economic base. Even in our calypsos, I just challenge these people, guys who like to sing in the feast. Stop being a singer of Orisha songs and become chantwells. Become grimoires. That means don't just sing songs that we are accustomed singing, but bring songs. You can use the same phrasing, you can use the same chorus, but build on the song that the song can go even beyond where we don't just sing it in our worship.
Well,
Because
I think
really.
that is a crucial
Mm-hmm.
and a critical point,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great observation you've made there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think to some degree also, before we could get that far, we probably gonna need to put things in place where we could learn and study the language.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, yeah, go ahead.
when I say the language, I'm not necessarily referring just to modern Yoruba. I'm also talking about the old form of Yoruba
Mm-hmm.
that was spoken here by our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
because these things are well recorded and preserved
No,
through
no,
a Dr. Maureen
yeah,
Warner.
Maureen Warner
Was, yeah,
and Dr. J.D. Elder also speak
right.
of our inclusion. Now, if you notice what you just did, you just kind of went back to the two areas where we call the cultural, the ancestral. You understand? Those are two important, because if you really look at what carnival was, the bookman, the midnight robber, the peregrinade,
About all of it. Bat,
all
cow,
the but all was our
right.
African culture.
The Jab Malasi,
Jab
all
Malasi,
these characters
yeah.
in
And
the
if
old
it'll
man.
and the chants and the different songs is the Orikis.
Definitely,
It was the
definitely.
Orikis.
Then you
They
had
were uh,
the sailor mass.
yeah. Because it also, because our Riki, our songs, our orins, they would express the experience. Even if you go into the Odus that most people are studying, the Odu would talk about past experience.
Baba,
Mm-hmm.
again,
Mm-hmm.
all what we calling as traditional characters in the
Mm-hmm.
carnival later on evolved into what we call contemporary
Mm-hmm.
mass.
Yeah.
The warriors, the various warriors, African warriors,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would have the armbands.
Yeah, exactly.
Later, instead of it
Mm-hmm.
being animal skins, it became feathers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of all the
Yeah,
modern
transformation.
depictions
Because
of all the different bands
mm,
and
right.
all of those that portray different aspects of history. In most instances,
Mm,
the themes were central around Africa.
mm-hmm.
But eventually, over time,
Yeah.
it expanded and it
Yeah.
included
Well,
other
'cause remember,
aspects of
other
history.
cultures became involved. So the kind of work a traditional craftsman would put into his craft work. Another grouping would look for the easiest way. So they
it's
would
very
move.
it's
I
very
remember
true.
making masks with bamboo and cane, going in the bush to pick them elephant cane.
Okay.
And we would strip it and do all the bending and whatnot. And then somebody say, hey, well, I ain't had time to go in bush. They take wires and start to bend wires and make all these, and they start to move thing. Remember straw,
Well,
we learned how to strip straws and
it
bamboo flicks,
is very
coconut.
very important too, because some of the
Mm-hmm.
research that I have done has led me to understand that a lot of the wire bending skills came from Sierra Leone
Mm-hmm.
by our people. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
called the Tem, and
Yeah,
some of them belonging to what was called the Gelede Society.
yeah.
So a
All
lot
right.
of the skills that went into making the
The
headpieces,
headpieces,
yeah, because
right?
the first major and still popular band that used a lot of the headgear were the same fancy sailors
Mm-hmm.
back in the
Yeah,
traditional time, because not
yeah.
only did they wear the white clothes and the white powder on their faces, but they also had specific dances
Mm-hmm.
that they used to do. And
Yeah.
it would be interesting up till today to see in Ile-Ife that the Oba for the Obatala group
Mm-hmm.
still does some of these dances
Yeah,
that
some of
reminds me quite a bit of the sailor dance.
of
No,
the
I'm very
sailors.
serious.
Yeah, the steps, you see it.
Yeah,
They go
yeah.
through remember you say let us line up and then you have to dance through and then you dance back and then somebody come. We just say that was saying this is what I say we have to now take our festival, take our programs and redefine it that it is not just you say you have a festival and you walk down the street. We portrayal, bring the portrayal and so the young ones now could get the essence, get the understanding because with that now by that cultural understanding we could go into what you call about the legal code, number 6, where we learn African traditional and customary laws. All right. We Africans have our way of looking at and living in the world. Our Africa, I would call it Afrocentric view and our Afrocentric expressions. So even when you see a manifestation in a feast and a making step, there is a story in the dance step.
Definitely.
But we have lose the touch, so we just like to see how Shango does jump and the drop on the knee, rap, flip and the thing and how they jump in high. But we what is a whole expression.
Baba,
Yeah.
beside it being an expression, many of the dances that are done by different Orishas
Mm.
is very reminiscent of the cosmological view, because
Mm-hmm.
many of these dances relates to particular things within the tradition,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is a dance for the harvest, that is
Harvest.
a particular step
Yeah.
that is in tune with the energies at that particular
Mm-hmm.
time,
So there we
that
go, the laws
expresses
of
the
nature.
the
Mm-hmm.
natural law.
Mm-hmm.
It's a signifying or symbolic ritual
Mm-hmm.
that is in tune with identifying the particular season.
The particular seasons. Right? And these are important. Also going to 7, the marital code, which we learn traditional African marriage types and forms. Marriage is the joining together of two families, not just two individuals. And this I think is where we see people married in the tradition, but the the the, the essence that surrounded the view that surrounded is still like in terms of the Western culture. That is my wife, but is that is now the extension of my family. Uh,
Well, one of the things is in West African culture,
mm,
the woman is referred to as wife,
mm.
but she is not referred to as his wife. She is referred to as the wife of the family.
The family, yeah, that's the extensions of family. So it's two families that join, and this is where I think too, where we had to go look at the ancestral linkages because
Noel Baba is important too. And even the statement I just made about
Mm-hmm.
her being the wife of the family. The point is that what has to be recognized is the resources that go into providing the dowry for the wife
Mm-hmm.
comes not just only from the man's own industry. The
Yeah.
resource comes from his family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
So the idea is that, I mean, it's not just that a woman is viewed as a material object, but the
Mm.
economic contribution that is made by a woman in West African society because women work. Again,
They are the
I'm
main
saying
economic
this:
base.
they are not. They don't have to look for no liberation and all
Mm.
that nonsense that our women in the
Yeah.
West here talk
No,
about.
they are no
That
housewife.
no, they work,
Yeah. They
right?
are the economic sustainability
So as a
of the
result of
society.
that, the economic contribution that a woman coming into a family compound makes,
Mm.
it's a very important contribution,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
This is one of the reasons why men pride themselves in having sons, because if you
Mm.
have sons, then you're going to bring in daughter-in-laws.
Yeah.
That's going to contribute to the
That
collective
that
wealth of
contribute.
that compound.
Yeah. Out your wealth. Yeah. Right. And that is important. One of the things we have to look at in terms of when you look at the marital code. And now number 8, social code. Join or start an African gender society. Go through a rites of passage program. African societies are built on elders passing on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to juniors who pass it on to the youth. This is how we ensure our continuity, stability, and resilience.
Yeah,
All right?
but that
Mm.
the closest thing to that you find in modern time is what they refer to as apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship. All
Yeah,
right?
where you would have the guilds of skilled
Mm.
craftsmen, and
Mm.
they would have apprentices who would learn the craft
Yeah.
or the skill or the art
Mm.
from them.
From them. And this we could, I think, is something we could build because our community need to now put some emphasis on the younger ones, the youths.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think
the whole thing is succession planning, yeah?
the succession. So whatever economic structure we should put, also have a budget where we could always have some program where youth can be involved as apprentice, learning skills with their hand as well as learning the wisdom of the tradition. And they learn that moral and respect, go through the different rites and passages that is required for them to grow. So they'll have a more respect for themselves and a more better respect for the elders and their peers,
And their
you know,
community
and
on
the
the whole.
community will extend on the whole.
But again, I'm going back
Mm.
to the word apprenticeship, and I want to use
Apprenticeship.
it in a different sense now.
Mm.
Apprenticeship shouldn't only be for the passing on of skills and artistic ability
Mm.
and crafts. You know, it should also extend into mentorship, and it must
Mm.
also extend into the elders being exemplars.
Mm.
Meaning that when we talk about Iwa Pele and we talk about
Omoluabi.
Omoluabi, we also talking about the elders setting proper examples
Mm.
for the younger ones to
Mm.
follow. It doesn't only talk about the passing down of skills and the passing down of traditional know-how and cultural knowledge.
Mm.
It extends to them having good characters also.
Mm. And that is important because we have to remember it's a wider scale. We just put emphasis more. I think what happened, we say we traditional and spiritual, but we more religious because most of the thing is based on a religious base. So this is in terms of where the traditional aspect and we allow our practice in spirituality be traditional, a way of life rather than a way of worship. All right. Number 9, it speaks of recreation programs. The adults must instruct the youths as to the concepts of teamwork, fair play, and good character, just as you were speaking about just now. Education takes place at all times, everywhere. We can use the recreation to impart vital information and values to our children. And I think that is something we have to now recreate a new way of transferring information. I remember in when I used to teach electrical, I used to still use the concept of spirit, how the spirit does move within our lives, and now that experience does create activities. So just as current will move and it create activity, it heats up the element and it brings the bulb to light up. In terms of how we pass on, I think we have to know how do we use the modern assets, the modern technology, as well as the modern influence of things, but still encourage the youth that they could still appreciate the tradition. Excuse. The tradition don't mean we have to still just work backwards. Right? So even if we building, I could build a carrot hut, but I'll still use certain modern technologies in terms of design and pattern to get the same result, a mud house. But it might stand up stronger or it'll be a little more straight and neater than if how we'd have just built a long time. Just take wood in the ground, tie bamboo together, and then throw the charter on top of the roof and we moving. Because now we told the, when they go, there's a word, aesthetics. Well, in terms of the beauty, you know, when you build, you put a walkway, you put flowers, you put things.
Aesthetics, Baba. Aesthetics is the
Aesthetics,
word.
yeah, the aesthetics, right? So we could do things with the aesthetics that give a certain pride because, yes, we're moving into a new age. Because even if you go to the motherland, you see how the Ifa temple is. They're not what it would have been years ago. All right. So you're just saying how do we adapt or readjust some of the things. Even in sports, we don't even have a traditional religious group sports club where encourage you to play sports. And even while they're playing sport, they're learning the principles of the tradition. Laws, management, morals, teamwork. You understand? All these things can be included
Well,
in
Baba,
sports.
whatever we see the need for, I guess now that we have the
Mm,
Congress and all of that, these things
mm,
could be brought
yeah.
to the ICIRTT at that level,
Right.
right? So we would even encourage the viewers to become involved with the ICIRTT and let your
Yeah.
ideas
Mm.
be heard.
And
You
you
know,
heard.
for those who have aspirations towards certain things, if you have the skills and the necessary know
Mm.
how, it would be good if you could come out and support the
Mm.
ICIRTT. That
Right.
way we could move forward
We can move
collectively.
forward collectively as a
Yes,
community.
in building the things that we need to have as
Mm.
a community.
Right. And 10, not lastly, but in terms of 10 items listed, arts program, create an African art, respect, display, and buy African arts and craft. This is how we can provide and propagate our creativity, imagery, and conscious presence in the world. This is how we show our love of self and support our art and businesses. So all the different steps really interact with each other. And this is as you just say in terms of how we put forward things and how we come collectively to bring things about. All right. Um, so well, just as I now reflecting, well, you know, this the carnival season has started, and I know the Baba would have been doing some studio work because I know he was caught up yesterday. So I'll give him an excuse if we could not get on to him. But it's just basic things I would have asked. But as being a vice president of the Southwest region of the International Council of Ifa Religion, I would just like to identify what is the ICAIRTT or the International Council for Ifa Religion, Trinidad and Tobago. It is would be the umbrella body of the Ifa Orisa practitioners and African spiritual practitioners in Trinidad and Tobago, in which to help develop, grow, sustain, and give guidance to Ifa Orisa and African spiritual practitioners who would adhere to the guidance of Ifa. And guidance of Ifa mean adhere to the words of God in terms of bringing out a better community. Next question would have been asked is who should join? Excuse. Churches or shrines, temples, individuals who adhere to the principles of Ifa, the words of God in terms of having Iwa Pele, which you talk about having good character, building your community on a good spiritual footing, as well as those who worship Orisha and would like to advance and take themselves to a more organized and structured way. They are all practitioners. Even I tell
So,
people Baptist is Orisha and Orisha is Baptist.
so Baba, so let me
Mm.
get this clear. What you're saying is it doesn't matter what a person practices as long as they are willing to adhere to the rules
Mm-hmm.
of the ICIRTT, they can join.
Mm. Well, not the rules. Well, you have to follow the constitution, but the words, the rules, and guidance of Ifa, which ICI will also follow, right? So those are people. Well, I follow ICI, but I'm following what the words of Ifa says. Ifa is the supreme law, and it is that if we all agree to follow the supreme law of God, they're not supposed to have no conflict between us. They're not supposed to have no discord. The community not supposed to be separated because I's a Ejiobe believer and I's a Oyeku believer. So we can't see eye to eye. Ogbe is light, Oyeku's darkness. So I go in this way and that way. That is not Ifa. Ifa is that the 16 major Odus and the 240 combinations, which add up to 256 guiding principles. We are here, we learn and we understand these principles and how would it make life better because it was structured for the well-being of mankind. It wasn't just structured for people who want to follow Orisha and Ifa. It is structured for humankind to become perfect humans.
So, Baba, so then I would
Mhm.
ask this question to you.
Mhm.
So, are you saying, therefore, that Ifa is acknowledged by many religions around the world?
You will see Ifa in nearly every religion that you see in the world. If it is biased, you might say, oh, that is not. But if you understand Ifa and you look at nearly every religion, even the other day I was showing somebody in geomatrix, which people say is of the Kabbalah and Hebrew practice, there's Ifa. It will have different names. I think we'll do a program where we'll go in depth as to the different names of the practices that follow Ifa so people get to understand the principles. I think I was doing in the winter solstice. Remember, the Odu that reveal speaks about Orimela will bring heaven to earth and he'll take earth and place it into heaven. Now, that is from Ifa. Now, Christian has understand that we have entered into the golden age, the age of ascension, which speaks of in the book of Revelation, where I, your God, or I, the Lord, shall make a new heaven and a new earth, and which man shall live in harmony. Isn't that the same thing as he bringing heaven to earth and earth taking earth and place in heaven? Because wherever we identify heaven and earth, we all will still have to live here. Our makeup is not made up to make in any other way. Otherwise, we have to die to go into any other region to live. So we can see it, but it just we as the practitioners first have to really clearly understand it. So we set the example so others who are outside of it can really understand, but hey, I am a part of this. Because our existence, if you say all Ori, left Orun to come to IE, all Ori. So everybody who has a head, they can either say Ori the physical head, or they can say Ori the conscious head, or they say Ori the soul, all left heaven to come to earth. So who will stay with you from the beginning till the end of time? They say it's only Ori say it will stay from the beginning and end of time. So even when I say a man, before he take Shahada to become a Muslim, that's the word,
Yeah, Shahada.
right? They take the Shahada to become a Muslim. What were you before you became a Muslim? But you had Ori. They say one have to baptize to become a Christian. What were you before you were baptized to become a Christian? You're still at Ori. So all the principles, all the rituals that will take person to join a particular religion, the principles of Ifa will still enshrine in you because you could be a Muslim and you could go and Ifa will tell you your life destiny. You could be a Chinese, Ifa will tell you your life destiny. You could be a Hebrew Jew,
Well,
even the
Baba,
white
but
Oyebo.
while
Mm-hmm.
you're on that point, I think it's important for us to point this out too.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Ifa, and Ifa
Mm-hmm.
can tell you that you are supposed to be Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to the said Ifa, and Ifa would tell you you're supposed to be this or you're
Yeah,
supposed to be that.
you should follow Ise or you should go to Imole. Ibale, they will tell you. Because Ifa will tell you what is your life destiny, what was your mission before you left heaven to come to earth as a living entity.
Well, also, I think one
Mhm.
of the association with Ori is also a person's destiny.
Your destiny.
So, yeah, Ori sometimes is in
Mhm.
reference to a person's
Your
destiny
destiny. We,
also.
we say Iponri or Ipon Ori, right? Your destiny that was chosen. And in if I would say you would have gone before God and there's Akunleya, Akunlekpa, where you kneel before God and say what I would like to contribute to the world. And God will say, okay, no problem, and I will bless you with this as well. You could go back into the same Christian story and say, and Jesus looked at the sins of the world and told his father, God, that he will go to make himself as a living sacrifice for the sins of men. The same concept. Akun leyan, akun legba. So anybody who really willing to adhere to the teachings, you don't have to be a slave to it, but adhere. It is guidance that could bring about the best in you as an individual as well as for the community. You follow the words, there would be no conflict. There'll be no sides, and you talk about Falasha Jews and the this Jews and the this one and this Jamaat Muslim and the this Muslim. It's not supposed to have no conflict if all follow. Yes, you could be the Christian Ifa because a lot of priests has their Ifa pot. And if you listen to some, I don't listen to many pastors from different regions. If you listen to them, they are quoting from Ifa verses in their temples. There's some Muslim quoting from Ifa verses in when they're doing the Friday prayers. You don't talk about them Chinese, them Japanese, and them, you see some Chinese singing Chinese song when they really and they dancing and catching more Shango than we Africans here. So Ifa is for the world. Ifa is for the well-being of the world by the forces of nature. When we use the term Orishas, Olodumare, Ifa, we really talk about the forces of nature. And the forces of nature is there to keep the balance. The balance for human to live a good life, for the plants to live a good life, the birds, the dogs, the fishes, everybody to live a good life. This is to maintain the balance. But they know there's always growth and evolution to different stages. So even in that stage, we still have to maintain a balance. Otherwise, what will destroy the earth we have to survive in. And then we'll say, what? Who could we blame? Because when we neglect to follow the advice of those that are there to guide us. So when, yes, we go through drought. Why are we having a drought? Did you check how much trees you think because you got how much billion of dollars to do development programs? So you cut the trees because you want to do development program. You don't want to adhere to the natural laws. Now you're getting drought. You're wondering why you're getting drought. Now, how do you go to hear what the universe? There we go to the traditionalists. So the traditionalists will tell you, okay, this is we the Brazilians do the smoke thing and they read them in the Amazon. They look at the clouds or the smoke and tell you well what the thing is saying. We will die Ifa or you do Dafa, what Ifa is saying. The Chinese will use I Ching to say what they're saying. And everybody will have a system to which to communicate what the universe is telling us. So sometimes the message in China is all for we too, The message in Russia is for we as well, when it pertains to how do we save the world. So when you had the COP26, where world leaders came to talk about the environment, they missed the point by not asking traditionalists to come and give their viewpoint. They brought a girl from Amazon to talk about the trees being cut, but to really say naturalists or traditionalists to say what the universe is saying and how do we resolve the issues. And if you read the Odu, I think one of the Odu for the year has spoken about in terms of plenty rain, don't stop the water courses. Stop the water courses, you'll end up with flood. After a flood, you'll have a lot of problems. So it speaks a lot of things. It speaks about fires. So right now, California is still burning up after how much weeks? They don't play with fire because there will be a blaze and it could burn up your whole cities. So there's a lot of water in terms of the environment in Yodu. It talk about sicknesses coming. And if we don't do what we should do before it reach bad, it will spread bad. We call it COVID, we call it strains, we call it what variants, we call it all name. But if I said, if we don't deal with certain things, these things will come and affect us. So I'm saying all this to tell people, IFA is not just about for us as African, but you can say we are the first. I just tell people I bias when they talk about we were the original people. Origin, the first gene was the black gene. So
Baba, you don't have to be biased. These
yeah,
things you're
you
speaking
know.
on are established facts.
Mm,
Nobody questions
right?
us as being the oldest people.
Yeah. We
Anybody
are the
who
first.
does that lack
They
any
lack
real
understanding.
historic or
Uh,
scientific knowledge. Because
so
it's
I
a
like to
known
start
and
to take the place
established
in
fact.
discussion. But I'm just saying, we original. And people, we had to break down words. Gene. First gene. So the original, which is us, is who are connected. We are this size. We are at this level of consciousness because we moved away from our practices and we start to adopt other people's practices. We would mind how much cow them people would have. Why they didn't fat? Them people like why they fat? All them cow, all they walking from town to town with cow. But the cow don't making the clothes. The cow make using doing the houses. They using the cow dung and all to make salt to cook the food. But they ain't fat. Because you rarely see them eating the cow. But we
No,
get to like
Baba,
steak. We
Baba,
get to like corned beef. Yes, sir.
there's a whole other, there's a
Yeah.
whole
But
other.
just show you there. You understand? We our whole makeup now, we who exist now, the changes would have been the environment because we kind of moved away from following the original laws, original practice. I was telling our sister today that as Christmas would have done, we would have already be taking a purge, taking cooling and a purge just after Christmas. Carnival. Well, I ain't seen people shelling peas because if my grandfather was still alive, is cook us bag of peas and had to sit down there and clean peas, green peas. So in Carnival Day, he making the green peas pillau to go in the Queen's Park Savannah. I think that made me kind of hate Carnival. You know, I hate it, but I just never like to go Carnival again because that was the routine for Carnival. Take your purge, ting. Well, before that, we had already been peeling sorrel. So they passed on practices. We got to learn to go and ride bicycle, go and play football, go and this. So those things became like a curse to us as young. But now it is important for us to know now. It is
Well,
important to
Baba,
know when to plant corn.
I think
Hmm?
when you are
Hmm.
young,
Hmm.
your concerns has be that of a youth.
It has been a youth. It has been of that.
All right, and as you get older,
Hmm.
you come around to discovering by the time you start having children
Hmm.
that these times that you would
Hmm.
spend with the elders engaging in similar activities to what you just speak about, shelling
Hmm.
peas, cleaning sorrel,
Yeah.
different activities were very important
Hmm.
learning times
Hmm.
because a lot of the elders would have taken that time off to relate stories,
Hmm.
relate their experiences while they were young, and they would have imparted very, very important lessons, many
Hmm.
of which up to today, I am sure. Sometimes when you speak to your children, you will tell them some of the stories that you
Yeah, that
observed.
they would have thing.
So
And that's it. The
despite
experience was good.
it may have taken away from us running down the road to take a little sweat, or having fun in some sort of a youthful
Yeah.
way, it did in fact
It
contribute
did have an impact.
to
But
giving
I'm
us
just saying,
discipline and
but
knowledge.
knowing how the world is today, this is what I was saying as I said earlier, we have to now try to adapt how we can bring these things back, but it should not be where it is a pull away from what the world is, but is our way where they could balance itself in that experience.
Well, Baba, I don't know. I find it to
Mm,
be very hard
mm,
in these times. All right. If you were today, Baba,
mm,
to go out into any social environment and spend time where there are people, despite the COVID, restriction. Let me explain this to you. You would be sitting in a group, and if there is no direct activity taking place, if the group is 5 or 6 persons, everybody is on their little electronic
Their
device.
device. Yeah.
So it's no longer even a situation where, all right, your grandfather say, all right, let me shell some peas. 5, 6 persons sit down there and you're shelling peas. You having conversations. You having exchanges.
Yeah.
You will have a little humor, a little laughter, a little bit of everything.
And that what used to be, because now I tell people I start drinking from the age of 16. Well, that drinking out of control, but we're drinking. But when we meet, and we drink, we knock on the table, we extempoing on the table.
No, so things,
Are we going
yeah,
out with song?
is
Because
now it's very difficult, Baba.
yeah,
You
but
you you
now
sit with your kids and everybody on the device.
everybody on the device.
You know, so
And
according to the tune Hotel California,
uh,
we are all now prisoners here of our own device.
or
But I
device.
ain't think that the device that was thinking about,
Yeah,
but that is what we
yeah.
are prisoners
But
of
that's what
now.
we are. And this was saying we have to find a balance. Both as to encourage people become part of the ICIRTT Trinidad and Tobago chapter in Ifa International Council, Ifa Religion, International Council, Ifa Religion. There are 6 regions, 6 vice presidents. I think, well, they will have some public advertisement as to who would be your regional vice president. I think when that opportunity come and they come around or they invited to a meeting, people, members, or come as individuals or form or themselves in groups and join as a group. So it have a collective growth. All right. There's plenty to learn, plenty to experience, and plenty to remember. I tell people I like what my sister Simone and all always emphasize the fact we remembering, right? Because all that we think we know learning is already in our DNA some way. It's just a weakening our spirituality. So
But Baba, I want to ask a question because you mentioned about people coming together in groups and all of
mhm,
that, right? Exactly how does the Congress play a part in the functioning of the ICIRTT? Because we have common people who may have ideas. We
mm,
have common people who may have skills. We may have common people that wants to make a contribution to the international, um,
mm,
to the ICIRTT, the
uh-huh.
International Council of Ifa Religion. How are they able to contribute through what you refer to as the Congress?
All right. Well, I can't speak on behalf of the International Council for Religion, Trinidad and Tobago chapter. Because
No,
they
you
are
mean it,
officers.
but that Baba, I
No,
don't understand that. But
no,
you
they
are
were
vice
saying,
president of a
oh,
region.
right. Because they will be drafting a plan how they're going to do what you are going to do, what you're asking. But in my Ifa Orisa Community Congress, in terms of it's almost the same format. But what we do, we bring people together and we don't have with us other side people. Everybody who would come and make a contribution on behalf of their group or their community is an ambassador. You're ambassador for your group. You're ambassador for the community
Okay.
which you
All right.
represent. Right?
Let me put the question a slightly
Mm.
different way.
Yeah.
All right. The ICIRTT
Mm.
has an executive.
Yeah.
Will the executive be making decisions for me as an average Ifa Orisha devotee in Trinidad? Or
All
will
right.
it be
All
that
right.
I, as a member of the Congress, would be
All
able
right.
to have a voice
All right. The
so
Congress
that
will
the
have a voice.
executive will
Right.
be able to hear what my views or my neighbor view
Mm.
is or my brother view is or other
Right.
members of the Congress?
All right.
Would the Congress be the
Uh,
one saying what it
to
is
give
they
the
want,
input.
or would the executive be telling the average followers
Right.
this is what you have to do?
No,
How
well,
it's going to work?
actually, it would be the Congress. But now remember, if we have 200,000 members, they can have 200,000 people to bring their ideas. So each region would have like a regional congressional meeting as to share the ideas into, because every region will have a different requirement or a different need. So each region would have its regional congressional meeting. a representative, or it could be the vice president, now goes to the national executive as a representative for the region. So whatever was required, or whatever is seek information is needed to get to the national Congress executive would come from the Congress through the vice president or any regional representative from that region to come before the Congress.
So then what you
Right?
are saying is we are to expect to be able to speak with and
Mm.
address these affairs in regular meetings
In
with
regular
the regional
meetings in
president.
a region, because if we let me be honest, we don't even have a headquarters as yet, right? And we don't have a stadium. Now,
Baba,
depending on personal
Baba,
issues,
Baba, Baba.
uh,
I think you all have a headquarters in Santa Cruz.
yeah, we are. Well, I don't inside of it. I know there's a
No,
headquarters.
no, I'm
Uh,
telling you, the
all right.
registered headquarters for the
You registered. All
ICIRTT
right.
is in Lower Santa Cruz.
Right. All
Right?
right.
So at
Well,
least
well, now said the
don't make
executive.
it sound so bad, Baba.
Well, well, I say
We have
in terms of the region, because I tell you when I started look around, I say, well, here we going. I ain't want everybody in my space. We have to look for a regional headquarters, so we'll meet at the region because all.
you're talking about for your
Yeah, the
region.
regional, because now you want to have people meeting. All they go to different shrines and things because remember some shrines cannot accommodate more than certain amount of people, and so we have to start that all that part of growing, right? That is a vision I want to share with every regional other vice president. Let me try to have regional areas, get the land, raise the funds, build it, everybody build. If you want to have one design for each, no problem. But just as we just walk and see beautiful temples for other people, we should be able to see in the regions beautiful temples of Ifa in the different regions. But that's the structure will work, but it will require a certain level of discipline. And that's why I say, people could have their meeting trash out because you have a meeting, 200 people, and everybody have an idea. Okay, now we have to prioritize what is the idea we really could work with first. Let me start there. A, B, C, or D.
So Baba,
Right?
so myself now being an
Mm-hmm.
average devotee,
Mm-hmm.
what is there for me to look forward to in the near future from the ICIRTT? And you're speaking now as a vice president of
All
a
right.
region.
Well, in terms of personal growth, through our trainings, workshop, and other activities that will be coming out of the from the organization. Also, well, remember you're joining a group to help build it as well as build yourself. So in terms of the tradition, I think everybody we will have start to have our classes training people who want to become priests, priestesses, practitioners of different onisheguns, um, Osain, learning medicines, right? I think all these will fall into place depending on what is the aspiration and the ambition of the individual in terms of coming into and being part by also getting the full understanding of Ifa and how Ifa will impact your life in terms of what your destiny is chosen. Because as an
Okay.
individual, you could go to any of the priests within the organization, see what is your destiny that was chosen in heaven, know where you are at in terms of in alignment with the destiny, connect with the pathway, what is required for you to do to fall in line with your destiny. But as said, some people, they may not, they would have chosen a destiny and by their life experience, they might want to alter. So they can seek what is the process in which I want to alter my destiny.
All right, but
You could
Baba,
be a plumber, you say, want to be a fireman.
all
What is
right,
required?
I have one more
Mm,
question, right? I will
yeah,
try not to bother you with too many questions.
yeah.
Now, you mentioned spiritual heads, right?
Mm.
Is that also going to be divided up into regions also, as far as the functioning of
Well,
spiritual heads are concerned? For example, I live in the
mm,
east-west corridor.
yeah.
There
Well,
might be four persons from my area
mm,
um, on the spiritual council.
mm.
How am I going to determine which one of these spiritual heads I should go to
Mm.
if I need spiritual advice or counseling?
All right. Well, in terms of as a member, I think all we depend on your region. It'll be all who within your region who are qualified. I think you'll be able to have access as to qualified diviners or leaders in which you could seek advice from. And in terms of where you are, you might get one who's closest to you that is comfortable for you to get to. All right. But
So okay, so
the
what if I needed the services of a herbalist or Onishegun? If I needed that particular service, because I don't think every single spiritual leader is a herbalist, is a person who is skilled in that type of thing.
well, I think the special skill one would seek, I think that would be like in the registry, because even right now we are registering the religious leaders, because the religious lead, there's a committee of religious spiritual leaders, which also will be like the body of elders, most respected priests and priestesses in that council, and they would have one representative in the executive. So you'll have a body of priests and priestesses, spiritual leaders and elders and respected people of renowned titles, and so it will have a registry of the membership, because in the application forms for the spiritual leaders, they identify their qualities, their skills, their abilities, their years of experiences, and also other members who would have signed, they would have put their experiences, their livelihood, they're truthful. But at some point in time, we will be going to Ifa to verify the quality and status of people. So we won't have to second guess according to what people could put on pen and paper, because we have a lot of people filling out integrity forms and they're far from it. So it's saying there will be a process to verify local people in your region and the different regions through the registration. Because remember now, we're still trying to get all the people to register. So if you may have diviners and people who are very skilled and they don't want to be part of the collective community, they will be outside. So they'll say, why is this fella? This fella is very good. Why he's not registered? Simple facts. And until he become registered, we have to just say, well, he's not registered.
All
So
right.
if you
So
have to
then,
go privately, you can't
well,
come
then
to
that
ICIR.
that would lead me to another question.
Uh-huh.
Now, what if among the spiritual or the religious leaders who possess the skill don't have a technological knowledge and can't come online to register or all that kind of thing? What's going to happen to them? They're going to get left by the wayside?
No. We have hard copy forms. You can all have it print out. You can get it print out, and depending on what region you're in, you could go to the regional vice president or
So
the
what
regional
so
representative
then,
to
Baba,
get
then
guidance.
my last question is: so what if you
Uh,
can't read or write now? What's your position?
no, you come to the regional for guidance. That was the regional vice president according to the constitution, not only for meetings, but they had one supposed to be the driving force in their region to do the extended work,
So Baba,
help
so
people
you're
to be
telling me
part
all
of.
the vice presidents and them is really nice, approachable fellas like you
Well,
and thing, and we could come to you and talk
I
and thing.
I was elected. I was elected. I don't know about the other candidates. I can't speak on behalf of the other candidates. But
So
as according to the constitution, I expected, right? And also the religious leaders will also be from the different regions. So it wouldn't be say like you get all 16, because it'll be 16 in number, supposed to be the maximum religious spiritual leaders. And they will be from all the different regions. Because remember, you have 5 in Trinidad and 1 in Tobago.
yeah, but
That's the
Baba,
regions. Mm.
you only making me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
I
But
ain't gonna ask nothing
yeah,
again.
but we'll be launching soon in terms of a full marketing advertisement from the public. Because remember the public relation officer really, but remember carnival season and everybody in studio right now because there is a short week, right? Because even we had meeting yesterday and he could not attend because of the studio work. And well, everybody trying to get in. Well, let's say get in the system, right?
Well,
So
I am curious to see what's going to happen. So you telling me a man putting in all that studio work for somebody to dance in a pod, boy?
yeah. Well, as we say, it's a taste of carnival, not Trinidad and Tobago carnival, a taste of carnival, right? Carnival has its own definition. So, and now this is what I say where the importance of people of the tradition, especially being involved in the governance, not necessarily take over government, but being involved in governance, because sometimes if they're not guided by people who have the proper understanding and can identify where the problem is and where you could find the solution and go around the solution and not spend exorbitant amount of money. At the end of the day, I just tell people I've been involved in culture, Best Village. We had workshops. Point 14 was culture with me. They had never could have put carnival in place even after carnival would have finished February or March, and they had a whole year to prepare for the next carnival, had anything properly in place. So if you're saying because the Prime Minister announced carnival in January and you say because you could get some money, you're going to do it in February, we let me be real. We know what is going to come
Yeah,
out.
but
Somebody
Baba,
just collect a check, see all that
Baba,
scaffolding there. If we go and trace the name, who collect this stuff and say who they married to, or who they are in law with, or who they are family to, that is why all those pods or cage or whatever they call it is there right now.
all right,
Yeah.
Baba. I ain't intend to go so
Not
deep
going
into
into
that.
politics,
But
we're going into what
we
social situation
we
that are
running
with us.
out that time,
Mm.
so I will let you close
All
off the
right.
show, and then I guess we would
So, yeah. So in reaching out to followers, viewers, listeners in the program, let us start to work towards the African restoration. It's not about being racial, but it's us. We have to fix ourselves. We have issues in our society because we are so separated by different views and different opinions. The wife is a Christian, the husband is a Risha, the children is a Muslim, this one is a atheist in one house alone, and all of them have the same melanated skin. We have to restore. They could each be in their own path, but they must have a straight line that we all connected to as a African family. Black restoration. We can't wait for reparation, and we can't look for no repatriation. Because if all these years and within the 10 years, the decade of African thing has come into an end, and we even see 100,000 yet. So how we go get
Baba.
trillions of dollars that we talking? So we just saying, let us work together in fixing our communities through this vehicle of ICIRTT and put that block. Let us get educated on the Green Network because we show you on spirituality, economics, astrology, education, social and economic issues are being put forward. Get involved, share with your friends, get your friends involved, be part of the new age. We can't let the age come and the opportunities there and they say, wait, I really was here and they talking about it. Get involved to be part of that experience. I say aboro aboye, aboshishe.
Abora, aboye, aboshe. Odabo, and see you all
Whatever.
next week.
The next week. Like, share, and
And
subscribe.
subscribe.
Subscribe.